Hello everyone, Michelle here from the Creative Cove. Thanks for joining me today. Today is kind of a watercolor pencil crayon kind of day. I tried to film this video before. I apologize for those of you who have been waiting for it. I accidentally filmed it in 4K and my Wi-Fi and data, or whatever you want to call it, just won't upload it. It's just too much data. So I'm filming it again. So bear with me, I apologize. This is just a fun way of playing with mixed media in a sense of kind of creating layers. So the first layer that I do is watercolor, then it dries, and I like to apply pencil crayon over top. So I have a huge selection of pencil crayons I've accumulated over the years. These are Prismacolors. These are my favorite pencil crayon, the Prismacolor Premier. They have a high wax content in them. They just blend beautifully, and the pigmentation is really, really nice. So these are the pencil crayons I'll be using. You can use whatever you like. I will have a copy of this digital on my Etsy store, so you can download it and use it as a reference if you like. Otherwise, let's go ahead and paint some apples. So I'm going to use a pencil. Where's my pencil? I like to use my just my mechanical 5.0 0.7, sorry. Ugh. And it's just a sketch pencil. I am using a really good quality watercolor paper today. This is a Studio Watercolor. It is a hot press. So the reason I'm using hot press is because of the pencil crayon. So you'll see that this paper is very, very smooth. So it takes pencil crayon beautifully. I don't want to use anything with a texture to it. Otherwise the pencil crayon grabs that texture and leaves that element behind, and in this case I don't want that. Sometimes I do, but in this case I don't. So let's just sketch an apple here. So I like to sketch super light when I'm watercoloring, just in case there's something in the sketch I don't like. I don't want it to stay behind underneath the watercolor, because once you put watercolor paint on top, you won't be able to remove this sketch underneath. So I'm just going to do an apple and a stem here from the branch. Curve this a little bit, and I will erase some lines here, so hopefully you can see the sketch a little bit. And another leaf coming down here. I'm not putting tons of detail in everything, just because it is very time consuming and I don't want the video to be too long. It might switch to just kind of one of those music videos after a while, because I can only talk so much while I'm doing this. You know, you don't want to listen to me talk for that long anyways. Nobody wants to listen to me talk that long. So I'm just doing some placements here with the leaves. I might put a little bit more detail in a minute. Just trying to figure out where I want everything. I'm going to put the apple coming down here. So I have 2 apples in this drawing. And they are ready for picking. I'm just kind of feeling out my sketch here. So the reason you want to stay light on the pencil is if you push down in the paper and it dents the paper, when you go to put the pencil crayon on top, it's going to leave it's going to reveal that texture after. So that's actually a technique you can use to draw, but in this case I don't want it. So I have to be careful where I'm putting pressure on my pencil. So for those of you who are new to pencil crayon, I've loved pencil crayon for years. It's probably my favorite media other than acrylic paints, but I find I don't have much time for it anymore, so I have to kind of force myself to get back into it. And it's one of those mediums I find that you kind of have to retrain your hand and everything to use again, if that makes sense. It's not something that stays retained almost, because you almost have to retrain your hand and brain to figure out how to use pencil crayon again. I don't know how to explain that. But it's about the pressure you're putting on the pencil, the way you're moving the pencil. So it takes practice. It takes a good quality pencil crayon too. You know, you can use your Crayola crayons, but you're not going to get the same results as you do if you have a quality pencil crayon. And there are a few options out there. I think it's called Derwent. I have their pencils, but not their pencil crayons. I have a couple of their pencil crayons, actually. I think this is one of them. I don't like them as much. I find them a bit chalky. But again, you have to experiment with some different products and see what it is you like the best. I've always liked the Prismacolor. It's just been my go-to. And I'm just going to put another leaf coming out here. Again, nice and soft. Not doing too many drawing references. I think that should do. Make sure I got my stick all the way through. Oh, can you hear the birds chirping? That's so pretty. Okay, that will do. So I'm going to grab some watercolor paintbrushes. I do recommend a watercolor paintbrush for this. So here's a couple. This is 700 series. So a number 4 and a number 1. This is the Derwent, the same pencil crayon I just showed you. That's a number 6 of theirs. That should be good. And maybe just a big one. Just a little bit fatter. They're chopped down because I put them in my traveling watercolor journal. So if you're wondering why I have such weird looking paintbrushes, that's why. All right, so I got my water here, paper towel, and I'm using the Michele paint set. I like this paint set. It's quite a nice range of color. You can see I'm very messy. I'll make sure I've got everything in frame here. Sorry. Hopefully that's not casting too much of a shadow. So I'm just going to I'm not going to go through the colors. I'm just grabbing like a lemony yellow and a little bit of that orange, and I'm going to throw this color down. So basically I want to do a wash on the bottom, and then I want to put the details, more of the details in with my pencil crayon. That's just how I like to build up these colors. So I'm going to do the lightest part of the apple. Now, of course, you don't have to do the pencil crayon. You can put all your detail in with the watercolor, or vice versa. You don't have to do the watercolor. You can just go straight in with the pencil. But I like to kind of mix it up a bit. I'm going to put a little bit of yellow in some of these leaves. So you can use a mask, for example, in watercolor, where you would paint the mask on to keep the white paper behind. It's a technique. It's a really nice technique. You put the mask down and then you paint the detail and then you roll the mask off. You just kind of rub it off and it reveals the white paper underneath. But in this case, I'm just going to play with the leaves themselves. So you do want to bear in mind that things are going to get, you don't want to get wet on wet in this. You want to stay more in control. So if I bring this line, it's going to bleed into the apple, and I don't want to do that. So you do want to kind of take your time and figure out what's wet, what's dry. You might have to be really patient and wait for things to really dry. I'm using my huge brush. I should have switched to a small brush there. Let's use this one. My watercolor brushes are pretty beaten up. I'm not the best at taking care of brushes. I'm just going to make some brown. And just put in a little bit of brown here. Again, being careful that apple's not super wet. there's another airplane going over my head. Do have an airport close by. Just rubbing in a little bit of brown. I'm just going to slowly build up my textures. Put in a little bit of brown down here, just to remind me that I can see the middle of the apple. And then I might go back to this guy, start dropping in a little bit of orange and red here. And take that same brown, throw in a little bit of orange. And it depends on the kind of look you like. Maybe you like the bleeds, you know, maybe you like the dried edges of the watercolor, how it will dry and leave a crease there. It really just depends on your taste and the overall technique you like to use. I'm a very impatient person, so I find my work gets moves fast, so my details are pretty soft. They're not harsh details until I get into maybe the pencil crayon. So you can see I'm building up color here. I'm not going straight into a red apple. Because when you look at an apple, especially one of these that has a range of yellows to oranges to reds, even sometimes a little bit of green in there, you want to build it up nice and slow. Because it's very easy in any medium really to go too dark too fast. And we all know how unforgiving watercolor can be. So you want to work on it very, very slowly. So I'm going to use this big brush and I'm just going to pencil in rough little veins here. I'm going to probably put more of that detail in with the pencil crayon, but I thought I'd have some fun playing with the watercolor. So with watercolor, you're always working light to dark because, like I said, once that color goes down, it's very difficult to remove. So you got to be careful where you're putting it. If you want a controlled painting, now you can really not worry about where you're putting it and really have some fun throwing colors down, like a wet on wet technique. That's really fun, especially for landscapes. I love doing it for landscapes. So you got to learn how to play with the amount of pigment you have, the amount of color you have, the amount of water you have in your brush, the kind of brush you're using. There's all kinds of things to get to learn with watercolor. So you can see I'm not really doing minute details. I'm just putting in the color to imply some shading and some veining. Because the detail I want to do is going to be with the pencil crayon. So why do watercolor underneath? I think it adds some charm to the overall look of the drawing. It adds a little bit of interest underneath the pencil crayon. A little, it has an overall different look than if you were just to use pencil crayon. And I like that. So you can see I'm slowly building up colors here. So here's a bleed where it's bled and left a pool. So if you like that sort of look, then you would add water and let it pool and push out colors and create these puddles. I love that. I love that look about watercolor. I mean, you can really only get it in watercolor, that look. But if it's something that you don't like it because you can't control how it pools, then just take your time. That's how you learn watercolor, how to apply how much paint to use, how little paint to use. And that's part of the charm of watercolor, is really just a way to learn how to use them. Sorry, I'm concentrating and worrying about this dog hitting the table at the same time. because she's getting restless. It's another reason I haven't been filming as much, because she's a bit difficult to film around. What, Millie? Go on, go play with your toys. You don't have to be in here. I'm just going to add a coat of red now. I'm going to mix a bit of red here. And I'm going to drop that color in. Millie, don't hit the table. Go on. Go play. Go on. So again, you want to make sure you're not touching anything wet. That branch is wet, so I'm going to stay away from it. If you want to get a nice clean line, you just wait for it to dry. I'm going to pull out some of that red at the bottom here. Make sure I actually have a shape of an apple. So it's nice to take your time and put the details in the drawing. That helps a lot, especially if you're new to watercolor. Really kind of take your time doing the drawing, and it will help you in the long run with the painting. So I'm just going to put this underneath here. I am kind of rushing a little bit too, because I don't like it when the videos are really, really long. Okay, just gonna give this a little bit of a soften in here. I think I go a little bit darker on the red. Let's put in a little bit more red. Be bold, be fearless. I mean, the main goal is to have fun. Even if it doesn't work out the way you wanted it to, which happens often to me. So you can see my shape of my apple keeps changing here as I go outside my lines. My biggest challenge is slowing down. I find I just want to do it. Just get on it and do it. Okay, I'm going to put one more saturation of color in the leaves, and then I'm going to let it dry, and we will do some pencil crayon. I'm just going to add a couple of different greens here, maybe a bit of an army green. Get a nice saturation of color here, and just throw some of that in. Again, nice and loose. That's my style. You're going to find your own style. I find I hear a lot of people, they're always comparing themselves to other artists. Don't do that. Just, you know, just be your own artist. You can admire other people's work for sure. There's lots of artists out there that are so inspiring and talented. But if I compare myself to them, I will never want to paint, because their style, I would never achieve it because it's not how I paint. So a lot of people are intimidated to try something because they want it to look like somebody else's paintings. Well, I hate to tell you, but it's never going to happen. You're going to have your own style, your own techniques. And I know that for a fact because I teach a lot of painting. And everybody, I can teach them how to paint a tree. I show them how I do it, and then I say, go for it. And everybody paints a tree differently. It's kind of fascinating, really. So you can see the red bled into the green. So that's what I mean by the bleed. If you're not, if you want to control it more, just wait for that to dry. So with the watercolor brush, I'm going to remove some of that color because I want a bit of a highlight in here. Just want to make sure I don't overdo it. So again, you need a good quality paper for that, and you need a good brush to be able to remove some stain. We're going to let that dry. Okay, so it's pretty dry now. As you can see, I have taken out a significant color scheme of pencil crayons. My brain, I tell you, the last couple of videos I've filmed, I am searching for words. I'm out of practice. I apologize for that. I hate it when I say It drives me crazy. So you can see here, we've got a ways to go still. We've got our nice little saturation of color, and now we're going to put in some detail. So you can see the range of colors I have picked out for the apple alone. There's all these, I would say. Maybe even some of these browns might end up going in. And the rest are for leaves and the stem. So let's have some fun. I'm not going to go over all the, I guess I could. So I've got black, I've got cadmium red, I have dark umber, raspberry, pale I can never say that, vermilion, crimson red, sunburst yellow, what's this one? Lemon yellow, cream, another lemon yellow, so I don't need two of those. Let's see, this one is mahogany red. This is a type of brown, burnt ochre, white, and cobalt turquoise. So I think that's a chartreuse of some kind, of yellow chartreuse, I think it says. But as you can see, I've used a lot of it. There's not much left, so the name has come off. This is a blue nuage. Nuage, I think maybe like snow, blue snow, I don't know. Dark green, grass green, 90% cool gray. These grays are wonderful. I love to use them. Something green apple, I think it is, because only the French is left. This is the chartreuse. Sorry, there's a lot of colors here. I'm not sure what that is. It's broken. So a cream, probably. It might be two creams. They look awfully close. Yeah, I think it's another cream. Dark, something green. Green prey. I don't know what prey is en français. That's the number, PC 909. And a spring green. Okay, sorry, that took too long. All right, so let's get into coloring here. So I like to start with the apple. I like to hold my colors. I'm gonna start in the highlight. So I try to think of where the light is hitting the apple, what I want to keep light, what I want to keep dark. And as you can see, you've already considered that when you laid down the foundation of the watercolor. So now what I want to do is slowly build up my colors here. One thing you want to do as well when you're using pencil crayon, or when you're drawing in general, is you're always drawing in the direction that things grow. So I like to, I'm not going to zigzag all over. I'm going to slowly blend my colors outwards. You can go in circles, you can go back and forth, you can do hatch work, whatever technique you're comfortable with. But you do want to make sure that you're constantly working on building and capturing the form of the apple. And by the form is basically making it round, making it not just a circle, but an oval. Not just a circle, but an oval. Not just a flat circle, but a sphere is the word I'm looking for. Yeah, it's been a long week. And I just slowly start building up these colors. So this is the sunburst yellow going in. And if you're not sure, where to add these colors, or you want to repeat the same process, you can color both apples at the same time. So repeat the process on both apples so that you're building them up the same way. If that's something that makes you feel a little bit more comfortable with. So now I'm going to put that orange in. So this bleed, I'm going to treat as a hole in the leaf. Because the green is not behind it, it's going to be something's bitten that leaf. So there's ways of manipulating things that you have maybe screwed up. So see, I'm going outside the line. I actually forgot to paint the stem here. So let's just draw that in. The stem that holds the apple to the tree. See how you can fix things? I'm just going to slowly build this up. So I might not talk for a few minutes while I'm building this up. So now I'm in a little bit more detail. Start building up values of color here so that I can really demonstrate shading. Kind of start pushing this leaf in front of the apple, putting a little shading at the back of the apple just to pop it back. So if you have an apple in front of you, or maybe even a stem of apples, you know, you chop something off your tree or you're sitting outside drawing this, it's really, really valuable to have a reference in front of you. So this is just coming out of my head. I'm also using the visual of the one that I've shown you already that I've drawn. So the more detail you can put in by observing what you're sketching, the more realistic it will be. If you've got that great light source right in front of you, it's awesome to use that. This is that gray. Ooh. Did you see how sharp all my pencils are? I took the time when I cleaned out my studio and took the time and sharpened all my pencils before I put them away. I'm so proud of myself. And it's so nice just to be able to grab that pencil and not be like, oh, I gotta sharpen them all. So here I'm putting in, these apples have a little bit of kind of texture to them. They're smooth, but the pigmentation in the apple's textured, and I want to throw some of that in. So this is probably as dark as I'll go right now until I do this one. So you can see the difference, working these shaded areas, leaving the highlight. And of course, we're going to play with that some more. Really starts to build up some form. So you can see the difference between a little bit of pencil crayon to adding layers of pencil crayon. And that's what pencil crayon is all about, just building up slow layers. And what I find the watercolor does is just takes away a few extra layers to work on, and also has these really beautiful, I don't know if you can see, I'm trying to move it closer to you, but has these really beautiful little lines, delicacies that only watercolor can bring to the table. So again, it's just a question of what you like, what kind of details you want to put in, and the overall final look of the product. Okay, so because the camera's rolling, I feel like I can't really take my time doing this, so I'm going out of the lines a lot more than I normally would. There's a lot of pressure when you're filming, I have to say. So normally I would be much slower and really take my time trying to get some details without rushing it. So here's the black. And this is the base of the apple, so you can see how it would be attached to the stem. What else do I want? I want this darker brown. Add a little bit of dark brown to the outer edge. And see how I'm curving my pencil because the apple is round. It's not flat, it's rounded. And that's what helps create that form. Clean up the edge here a little bit. A little bit of shadow in here maybe from where that crease of the apple is. And then I'll go over it with the red. So I'm building up a darker value of red by using this brown underneath it. I might do like a little patch here because again, this apple does have a texture in the pigment. Hopefully my camera's not moving too much, sorry. I want to put a little bit of indication of some round here, so there's a little bit of form in that part of the apple as well. It's curving. I have to move, sorry. Remember to always move your paper so that you're not fighting your wrist. You always want to work with your wrist. And put in some of this darky purple red. This is the raspberry. It's kind of got a pink tone to it. So you can see the form is starting to take shape. And once we've captured our form and we're happy with it, then we can start putting in even more details. I'll rotate again. So if I push too hard, my camera shakes. I feel like we're missing the top of this apple. Hopefully the camera's not shaking too much. It's attached to the same table I'm coloring with. Just want to add a little bit of this color in here. So when you want something very soft and smooth, it's really just a question of practicing with the pressure that you're applying with the pencil crayon. So it's the same as using a paintbrush. You want that control, and that comes just with practice. And that's what I was talking about earlier about being out of practice. I have to train my hand to be gentle with the pencil crayon again. And Millie's moving. Oh, she's leaving the room, so maybe she won't bang the table anymore. Okay, so I think I'm going to use this really pretty red, which is the crimson red. This is my favorite red. Really bring some red into this apple. I think I'm going to add a little bit of texture to it as well. So when you use these pencil crayons, when you really push on them, they start to kind of burnish the page. And what will happen is things will get shiny and the colors underneath will kind of soften into each other. And that's why you want a good pencil crayon to do that with. Oh, this camera's shaking. I can see it shaking. I'm going to try and hold it with my one hand. Because there's nothing worse than trying to watch a video and the camera's moving. Let's go back to this one. Maybe add a little bit harder red in there. Push down a little harder. Put in some texture. Okay, let's go into some orange here. Hold the camera again. Sorry, I just hate it when it shakes. So now I'm going to push a little bit harder with this orange. I find my drawings always look different when I draw them with the camera rolling than when I draw them all by myself in my studio. And let's go to this bright yellowy orange. Oops. So now I'm going to go all over the apple with this bright orange and push really hard. And what will happen is those colors will kind of blend together. Okay, let me go in with this lighter color. And then maybe in with a little bit of white. And you can see I'm really pushing hard with the white. Soften those pastel colors out. The burnishing is probably my favorite part. So you can see I pushed much harder on these ones than I did on, oops, I just broke my white. Much harder on these ones than I did on these ones. So what I can do now is I want to add a little bit of these textures back in. So I'm going to go in with the darker gray, and I'm just going to add a little bit of blemishes to these apples. Just a little blemish here and there. I don't want them perfect. I want them to look like fresh apples off a tree. And then go back in with a little bit more detail on some brown on that. Go to this brown, warm it up a little bit. We could throw some of this brown into the stem and branch. Where's my other brown? Here it is. Kind of a reddy brown, which you can also throw in the apple if you want. And then maybe a little bit of yellow in the branch just to warm it up a little bit. And then maybe some of this cream color. And I just kind of play with these colors. That's why I like to pick all my colors first. That way, try not to rub either. I've done that before. It can ruin your drawing. A little bit of detail, a little bit of contrast here with some black going in. Okay, so there's our apples. Pretty happy with that right now. Might come back to them in a bit once I put some details in the leaves. See how I feel about the apples. You know, it would be really nice actually. I think if we found a nice pink. Let's have a quick look for a pink in here. Just a nice soft pink to go over top of that. And this is the beauty of pencil crayons. So you can see the difference just adding a little bit of pink can make. Because it's not going to be this specific pink. It's going to blend with all the colors underneath. Create a whole new color. I just think that's fun to add a little bit of hot pink in there. So there's no hot pink in my original one. But it just goes to show how you can add layers of color. So let's do a leaf together. I'll grab my greens, because I do like to have them in my hand. Oh, this blue color I pulled out just to give it maybe a little texture of blemishes in a lighter version. Just for fun, just to show that, you know, this is a very bright blue color, but how different it looks and subdued it looks on top of other colors. So again, just have fun mixing those and blending those colors in. Maybe a little blemish inside the highlight. So you can see I'm pushing pretty hard. I really like this blue. Okay, so let's go into the leaves. So I'm going to leave the center of the leaves nice and bright. I'm going to give it a quick color over top. Let's do this one too. So I'm going to color that in. I'm going to start with a darker green here and maybe put in some detail. So it depends. You want the veins to be white, you want them to be light, you want them to be dark. This is where you can choose what you want to do. And again, I highly recommend having a leaf in front of you, or an image of a leaf in front of you, to really learn and see what it is you're drawing. It's really important to be able to observe what it is you're drawing, because it's easy to imagine what it would look like, but it doesn't actually look like that, and then the end result doesn't look as real as it could than if you had an actual image, like an actual reference in front of you. So I'm just throwing in browns, I'm throwing in greens, I'm just building up some darker values here of greens, especially on this one because it's behind the apple. And I'm literally just layering it on. I struggle with leaves a lot. I don't have patience for veins. So my leaves don't always turn out the nicest. So this one, for example, isn't that great. And of course I'm filming too, so I feel like I have to kind of rush it. So I might put a little bit of black right in here to visually separate the apple and the leaf behind. We want a clear definition of things when we're drawing. Ooh, Millie's back. She's waiting patiently for her walk. Aren't you, babe? Don't hit the table. Okay, let's do this guy up here. So I'm going to start with my lighter green. I'm going to play with the watercolor texture that's there already. I'm going to make this leaf a little bit bigger. I feel like the stem got away from us a little bit. I'm just going to play with the segments that the watercolor has created. So you don't have to cover up all your watercolor work. But you just want to kind of embellish it a little bit. I'm just putting in some shaded areas here with some darker green. Like, I'm no expert with watercolor or pencil crayon. I just like to dabble. So those of you watching that do this regularly, you might be cringing, I don't know. I just want to tone down that vein. It's a bit bright for me. Okay, let's go into some brown here. You can really have fun with leaves. You can have them where they're kind of chewed. You know, a bug's been eating them. Lots of fun. Let's put a little bit of yellow in there. So you can see it's very easy to go too dark too fast. I feel like this one got away from me. It's a bit dark than I like, but I'm still gonna use it. I'm still gonna, I still like it. It's just, I would have gone a little bit slower and maybe worked on the detail a little bit more before burnishing. Because the paper will only let you lay down so much color. But I like the edge of the watercolors poking through. And then let's do this one out here. And this one maybe will take a little bit more time. So I'm gonna turn it. Just kind of really pull out the texture of the leaf. Again, I don't have a visual in front of me. I'm just making it up. If I had an actual leaf in front of me or an image of a leaf, things would be much smoother. Okay, let's put some of this fun blue in. Now the blue isn't really part of the leaf, but I like the blue contrast with the red. I would even put a little bit in the stem, maybe in the bark. Just, you know, artistic license, so to speak. Oh, Millie's found something to chew. It's probably something she's not allowed to chew. I'm just gonna pull out a little of this pretty blue. So it's fun to have some artistic license with your colors. That's the whole point, right? Just kind of make the drawing your own. So this time I've left some of the veins in a little bit more obvious. Soften it out now. I'm going to burnish a bit. I'm going to start pushing on the color. And maybe bringing some of that brighter green back in this spot here. And then you can decide, you know, do I want it to be more of a contrast? I might add a little bit of black back in. Where's my black gone? Where'd my black go? This is it here, right? Yeah. So maybe I want to pop the vein a little bit more. I'm going to add a little bit of contrast around it. Maybe build up the texture of it, of the leaf. So you can just have fun drawing whatever your technique is. And you might be on a road of discovery of what you like and what you don't like. All right. So a different look on that leaf than those. But I kind of like that look, so I'm gonna add a little bit of that into these ones. You can really take your time and study things, you know, get yourself a good reference and really take your time and draw and paint what you see as opposed to what you think it looks like. And I guarantee your stuff will improve, because it's not just training your brain to train your hand to draw. You also have to train your eye to observe things. And then you have to learn how to kind of create that illusion on a two-dimensional surface like paper here. So there's all kinds of tricks for that. All right, I'm going to leave it there. I'm not going to do all the leaves. I think you get the idea. So you can see the difference. I went much bolder and much lighter. So the same techniques were there. I had more time and less pressure, so it took my time filling out the leaves. And in this one, you can really appreciate the watercolor in the leaves more than you can in this one. I went a little bit bolder on the leaves, so the watercolor isn't as obvious, but it's more obvious in the apples. So I hope you enjoyed today. These are really fun drawings to make. You can make yourself little vintage looking kind of botanical, what's the word, research type papers, you know, and you can put them in the vintage frame. I'd maybe even stain this paper a little more brown just so it looks vintage, and then pop them in a frame and you've got your very own botanical sketches. Take an apple and slice it in half and have a look at the details inside and the different stages. So the seed to the flowering fruit to the actual fruit. So I hope you enjoyed today. I hope it gave you some ideas. If you liked today, give me a thumbs up. I hope you stuck around to the end. And we'll see you again soon, everyone. Thank you. Bye.